Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm back with another art video which I'm super excited about because I know there hasn't been like an art-based video for quite a while and that you guys seem to really like the art videos that I've done, so I thought I would do a tips for GCSE art video today. A lot of you from the comments have said that you're picking your GCSEs or you're starting art GCSE. I've had a few direct messages as well asking for tips, so I thought I would put collectively things that I've said to individuals into one big video and give you some other tips and advice on how to get that 8 or 9 in GCSE art, because it is possible. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you like my art videos and I'll continue doing them. Without further ado, let's get into the video. I've also made like a little note of some of the tips on my phone, so I'm going to use them as like a prompt. So my first tip for GCSE art is to start with a mind map. So I would always start with like a spider diagram to just get some ideas rolling, get your brain working, and that like often little ideas that you have spring into other things and you could end up like literally going from thinking of drawing an apple to like some spaceship, whatever, I don't know, but that doesn't really make any sense. Basically, mind maps can lead you to so many different ideas that you wouldn't have even thought of from the original theme. So for GCSE, I don't know whether it varies on exam boards. I was on Edexcel and we were given a theme. So my theme was past, present and or future. So I've just got my book as an example. So I decided to do a mind map. I have shown the whole of this book in one of my previous videos, so if you haven't seen that then I'll link it down below. So this was my exam GCSE book. I've just got past, present and or future in the middle. I've got loads and loads of images that I think could link to the theme somehow, and then under here I've just got a massive mind map spider diagram type thing, and I've just got loads of different ideas rolling. So from past, present and or future I picked 6 like main like subheadings or like subjects that I guess could link, that I thought could link. So I've got imagination, from there I've got things like dreams, imaginary friends, myths, stories, books, like basically anything. And then I've got activities, so I've got activities that I've done like Duke of Edinburgh, stuff like that. And then I've got objects, so that can literally be anything, packaging. I've got shoes, sweets, and then I've got people, places and natural world. What I think with art in general, like when they give you a theme, you literally can do whatever you want and you can find a link. Like you'll always be able to find a link, so don't focus too much on the theme. Like if you want to paint a seaside and the theme is past, present and or future, you can paint a seaside and say that it's a memory from your past or somewhere you want to go in the future. Like literally you can do whatever you want, and you're much more likely to do well at something if you enjoy it. So don't try and force yourself to paint or draw something linking to like that strongly links to the theme if your heart's not really in it. Like you can always find a link, and if you're struggling to find a link, then as I said before, like you're always more than welcome to message me, DM me on Instagram rather than doing it through YouTube, because I don't really know how the whole like direct message on YouTube works, but I'll leave my Insta down below or on the screen somewhere, and you can always message me on that and I'll always reply. Yeah, so my first tip is to do a mind map. My second tip for GCSE art is to include some artist links. So I call these artist links, you might call them something differently, but I basically mean getting images from other artists that link to your personal ideas and writing about the artist image. So always make sure to include who the artist is, try and find the date of when it was produced, and also try and find a title of what it's called. That's not always so easy, the title particularly, sometimes they don't have titles, which is fine, but always try and get the name of the artist. So for example, on the inside of the flap I just have some art images down the side. So like for example, this piece down here is a painting by the artist Sarah Graham. So I've written about how it could link to past, present and future. So what have I actually written? I did this like 3 years ago. I said that it could link to the theme through the idea of food and what people have eaten in the past will be different to the present. So, you know, when you're younger, your taste buds change. Like, I used to hate mushrooms, now I love mushrooms. That's just a really bad example, but you get what I'm saying. So I've written who the artist was. I couldn't find a date, so I didn't include that. I've written about what I like about the image, so the colours, the composition. Yeah, so when you're writing about other artists' work, I always try to think about the composition, the lighting, the mood, the colour. Sometimes colours can be quite symbolic, so if you're talking about Picasso's blue period, like that's quite like deep and sad really, and then you go into his rose period, which is a bit more uplifting. So the colours of a piece can really change a mood, so that's a really important thing to think about. Also, what's actually in the image, like is there a cross that could be symbolic for religion, or you know, just your own interpretations of it as well, like what the image could mean to you or to someone else. Yeah, that's basically what I talk about for artist images and why I like it and how it could link to the theme. My next like sort of tip is you can copy artists' work if it's going to help your ideas to get like moving, as long as you don't say that it's your own original work, and if you have the artist's original image in there as well, so you're not trying to take credit for work that someone else has done. Like, you can do a forgery of that artist's work just so you understand like how they created it, so you can get to know their techniques, the type of paint they used and how they used it. I do this a lot because it really helps me to understand how I can then put those ideas and those techniques into my own work. So for example, this image here is originally by the artist Sarah Graham, and this was done in acrylic paint. So I've got a picture and I've written about it here. I've done this as a full-on image analysis, which I also think is really important to do. So I've spoken about the colour, the target market, text, because there is some text on the sweets, composition, colour, basically everything. And then on this side, I've recreated it using different medias so I could understand how she works. So that one there is acrylic paint, and that is what she actually used for her work, but I've also tried it out in biro, colour pencil, chalk, watercolour, like loads. I just find that it really helps me to understand how the artist works, and then I can put that into my own ideas later on. Next tip, I would recommend going to visit a gallery. If you can, go and visit a gallery where a particular artist is showing their work that you're really interested in, but just going to any gallery visit, taking some pictures, drawing from some observation is always gonna be a good thing. It can't be a bad thing. And if you're going to a big gallery, chances are you'll be able to find something that links to your idea. Now, my next tip is really, really important. I really think that you should try and include some observation work. You can like trace images if it's your own images, like there's nothing wrong with that, but examiners, I was always told anyway, that examiners really like to see observation work. So I drew directly from sweets in front of me, like I went and brought little them like lollipop things, drumsticks, that's it, and other sweets like bonbons and stuff, and I drew directly from them. It's always good to do direct observation. Examiners really like it, and it just shows that, you know, you can actually draw. And if you're not the strongest drawer from direct observation, you can make it more abstract and say that like you did it on purpose. Like, just, I don't know, make it messy on purpose, make it loose, do it with your left hand, do it with your eyes closed. You know, there's so many things that you can do, and it's not going to be bad. Just give it a go. Now, my next tip is linking to your final idea. So when you've had all these ideas, you've tried out different things, and you've narrowed it down to one sort of idea that you want to do. So I decided that I wanted to do a painting of sweets, basically. So you need to take your own photos. This is really important. When you do your final piece, like your final you have like a 10-hour exam, or mine was 10 hours, times may vary, I don't know. You do your final painting or print or sculpture or drawing, like your final actual piece. You can't copy that from someone else's work. You really need to try and take your own photos and work from them if you can. So we have a little photography studio at school. It's not that great, not gonna lie, but I just brought loads of sweets, got a jar, and use the lights to take some like proper photos in there. Make sure your photos are good quality because they'll be so much easier to draw from. And once you have your own photos, you can do whatever you want with them. You can trace them, no problem. Like that's your own photo. That's completely different to if you're doing a final piece and you're just doing a forgery of another artist's work. Like that's not okay. But if you're tracing your own photo, you know, that's your property. Like you've created that photo, if you get what I mean. So I'll show you my photography page. So I went into the photography studio and just took loads and loads of photos of my jars of sweets, and then I also chose my final photo, and this was the one that I traced to paint on a big canvas, which I have shown in another video. Now the next is just a general tip. So make sure throughout your book you're writing about everything you do. Like, why are you doing observation work? Why have you looked at a certain artist? Why have you decided to pick a certain theme? Yeah, it's just important so the examiner can read it and everything sort of flows better if you've written about why you've done it. If you've just got like random drawings everywhere, then they might get a bit confused when they're looking through your book. So just make sure to write, even if it's just a sentence, just write about why you've chosen to do something. Also, another thing, not everything you do has to be in your book. You can do bigger pieces outside of your book and also submit them. All you need to do is take pictures of them and put them in your book and write about them, but you can also submit like an actual big piece alongside your book. So if you wanted to do printing and it's like too big to put in your book, don't make something really small if you want it to be really big. If you want to make something really, really big but you don't think you can because you can't put it in your book, don't think like that. Like, you can do whatever you want and then just take photos of it, write about it in your book, and then submit the actual big thing as well. Also, try and think about the layout of your book. So if things look aesthetically pleasing, you won't like gain marks as such, like just because the layout of your book is really pretty, but you're not going to lose any marks. Whereas if you had a book that was really scruffy, you had bits of paper falling out everywhere, you wrote everything like in pencil and it was half rubbing out, like you probably would drop some marks because it just doesn't look as nice. So think about backgrounds, think about background colours. Don't do things that are too overpowering. I tend to do backgrounds such as like watercolour paint, or just put down some black or brown paper. And it just makes your book look a bit more put together and you're more likely to please the examiner, I suppose. And my last and final tip is don't be afraid to try out new techniques and new ideas. GCSE is the best time to try out new things. So if you've never done a painting before, go and do a painting. Try out acrylic paint, watercolour, oil, poster paint, like everything that you can. If you are scared that you're not going to be the best at drawing, just give it a go. Like, there's no harm in trying different things, and even if it doesn't work out, include it anyway. Write about it, write about what you maybe struggled with, why you found it difficult, but say that you're glad that you did it, because it's still another technique to add. And if you just do one technique the whole way through your book, there comes a point where it gets a little bit repetitive. So try out as many different things as you can. Try out printing, sculpture making, mud rock, and you'll just gain more marks to show that you've tried out different things, because then you're being like flexible and you're not scared to try new things, like you're taking risks. Taking risks is quite a big factor, especially at A-level, but even at GCSE. Don't stay in the safe zone, you know. To get those 8s and 9s, those A's and A stars, you've got to try and push yourself. So yeah, so those are all of my tips for GCSE art, how to get that 8 or 9 grade. Yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun trying to put together all of the tips, and I hope that this helps some of you. If you have any more questions, as I said earlier on, don't be afraid to message me because I'll always reply. And yeah, if you have any more video requests, make sure to put them down below, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!